Welcome to the show, Richelle.
Hi.
So, my favorite question to start off with is what's your sober date?
Um, it's 14 months of it yesterday, so September 12th of 23.
Congratulations on 14 months.
Thank you.
My second favorite question is what was going on September 11th of 2023?
I was in jail. I got a extreme DUI.
What's extreme mean? Because I feel like a DUI is a DUI regardless.
It was my blood alcohol level was 0.349.
It's pretty high.
So extreme means that like you kicked it up a notch. Like it's not just point 0.1.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not barely over with a 0.349, that's for sure. Now, are you an alcoholic or are you an addict also?
Maybe both, but I've never really messed with like I would do. Can I say the words on here or no?
Yeah, you can talk about anything you want. It's YouTube. They allow anything.
Okay, TikTok don't. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would use cocaine, but only as like a party drug, so I could keep drinking.
Yeah, I always say
I
that I always say cocaine and alcohol go together like milk and cookies.
100%.
Yeah. Like if you're doing coke, you're drinking too.
Oh, for
And
I don't know how people. I hear about it, but I feel like that. Yeah, to me, I don't know. Like that's someone else's. I know it's out there, but to me, yeah, I used it specifically so I could drink more and keep partying. So I
yeah,
wouldn't.
I did that. I lived in North Carolina for a year. I'm originally from South Jersey. And when I lived in North Carolina, I was away from opiates because that was my drug of choice. But then I started drinking a lot when I was in North Carolina, and I mean 7 days a week, 5 nights at the bar. Had my own stool at the bar that they reserved for me. I would just text the bartender like, "Hey, I'm coming in at 7," and he would push the bar stool up so nobody would sit in it. Put a glass of water on there so everyone would think it's taken. And I'd walk in, I would get a double shot of Jack and a Jack and Coke to start my night. And about an hour in, the bartender would be like, and then I would be like that. He would go like this.
Oh
I
yeah.
would give a thumbs up and then go into the back and do a line with them. And then I found myself after about a month of partying with them, I found the connection and I started going through an 8 ball a night.
It's easy
And
to do,
yeah, and I wasn't even at the bar. I was at home drinking.
right?
At home I would either make mixed drinks, but mostly I was such an alcoholic that our gas station is where you could buy beer and stuff like that. And it was right around the corner, and I would go in there every day for cigarettes and a 5 hour energy to start my day. And I said to the guy, "You don't have any twisted tea?" And he goes, "Would you buy that if I ordered it?" I said, "Hell yeah." I said, "Get the tall boys,
Yep.
the big ones, and get the regular flavor, and I'll buy the whole entire case." So
Right.
he started ordering a case a week for me, and I would go into the walk-in by myself, and like I worked there, you know what I mean? Like I'd walk into the walk-in, it would be in the back for me. I'd grab it, bring it to the thing, and it would ring me out with a pack of smokes. Like,
Yeah. That's cool. So they obviously liked you, like they had your routine down and would like hook you up. I had to wake up. It got so bad that I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, take a shot of vodka just so I could go back to sleep. And then I would wake up. And God bless my kids, I woke them up. I had a routine because I knew I wouldn't be able to keep it down that first shot. So I'd go sit in the bathroom on my knees, take a shot because I knew it was all coming back up. And then another one. And sometimes it would come up, sometimes I would hold that one down.
yep.
I had to wait. Like I literally could not function. I
Now,
couldn't, I would
where are
be,
you where are you from, Rochelle?
originally I'm from the South, but now I live in Arizona.
Okay, where about in the South?
So I am born outside of New Smyrna Beach, so more central. Then I moved to Pensacola and then Georgia.
So you kind of bounced around.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't know for anybody that's listening that maybe is more from the sticks, like from the country. Um, Drinking is kind of a way of life, kind of like football. And like out here in Arizona, I didn't have that long of a relapse before my family was on me like white on rice, like taking me to rehab. Where in Florida or in Georgia too, like it was more common to kind of be like, I don't know, like that, to
Yeah.
where I had to want it for myself. But um, yeah,
Do
it.
you have any brothers or sisters?
I have a half sister who lives in Georgia.
So your parents split up?
Yeah, my dad had come out here. I moved out to Arizona my senior year of high school, and then I stayed out here for 10, just about 10 years, and my alcoholism started. I always partied. I guess looking back, I was in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s. I just was the party girl. Like every club, I could get anybody in VIP. Like I was like a little Paris Hilton running around Scottsdale, you know?
Do you have
And
any? When your parents split up, how old were you?
yeah, I was 15.
Okay, so you were a teenager.
Yeah, I was a teenager.
How'd you take that?
Um, my dad, he's a developer out here in Scottsdale, and he was a developer in Florida. So the way it happened is my dad would work a lot and he wasn't ever really around. Um, but it hurt. Like I think like probably a lot of people can identify with. You feel abandoned, you feel like they chose sorry about that they chose something else over you.
Yeah.
My granddaddy was a raging alcoholic. I do believe that it's a genetic thing as well as trauma. I kind of feel like for me I had all the components to equal a great disaster.
Yeah. Now, if you don't mind, can I ask you about the trauma that you just mentioned?
My fiance was killed by a drunk driver. He was not drunk when we were 26,
That
and that
is traumatic.
started drinking not to have fun, to hide the pain, and I could never drink like a normal person again.
Now, how old were you when you started drinking?
Like 21. I mean, outside of some like country parties, like would go take the pickups out into the fields and stuff, and like I'd have a beer or something, but not like drink. I wouldn't like want to drink. I wouldn't look forward to drinking. I wouldn't like I might have a beer, sip on it, but I didn't
So
really
you weren't like a partier in high school.
no. I was a swimmer.
You were a swimmer? My cousins swim. They both swam collegiately at Washington and Lee in Virginia, which I guess has a big swimming program. And both of my cousins swam all 4 years of college there.
Oh,
Did you
nice.
did you swim in college or just high school?
I stopped when I moved out to Arizona.
Because they didn't have swimming out there.
I did. I was done. I mean, I made it through nationals. Um, my next goal was Olympic trials, but I didn't want to go any further. My whole life was dedicated to swimming. Like if you have a cousin that was a swimmer, like it's 5 a.m. practice, after school practice, traveling every weekend, like your whole life is swimming.
No, yeah, I know my aunt and uncle used to travel all over the place, and it becomes not a habit, but it takes over your life.
It does.
So I feel like it's similar to ice hockey, where you have the early mornings and the weekends are taken up, and you don't have any like free days at all. Okay, so you stopped swimming, you're in high school, and you didn't really drink until your early 20s.
Right.
Now, did it start because you were 21 and you were legal then?
So I went to hair school. I became a hairstylist. That's what I decided I want to do. And the people that I worked with, there was a bar right next to the salon, and I would take, like, it started with I would go with them casually, and I was of age, so I could go to the bar. And then, my clients, I'd be like, hey, let me treat you to a glass of wine, or do you want to go where I was in Scottsdale? Where there's a million bars. It's like a hot spot for bars. So, or restaurants. And, I didn't have kids or anything at the time. So usually I'd either go with someone from work or a client right after. And then all the club owners kind of started to get to know me that way. And then I kind of gradually became like a socialite, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, how old are you now?
41.
Okay, so this is like the mid 2000s.
This was like, yeah, 2004, probably.
Yeah.
2003, 2004.
And that's when like you had mentioned the Paris Hilton type.
Yes, like I can't mention that names and stuff like that, but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine because I've heard Scottsdale is a big party area. And you said that you were like more of a social drinker in your early 20s, right?
Yeah, and then, like again, I can't name names, but we would I'd end up waking up in Vegas and, then partying in Vegas. Like it became a big party. However, I always kept my job. Like I didn't wake up and drink. I would wake up, I would do my job, and then, we would go out. But I went out every night,
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
like every night.
Yeah.
Always went to work, and I did not drink like when I woke up.
And then you had met somebody?
So yeah, then I just dated around and had fun, and then I met my fiance Brad. He was starting his own landscaping company out here in Arizona, and he worked at this bar called the Dirty Dog, which was kind of like a bougie biker bar. Um, and a lot of celebrities would stop in there. It was like the hot spot at the time, and we just had a blast. So yeah, that's how I met him.
And the drinking progressed a little bit because you were at the same bar all the time?
No, it stayed the same. I mean, I drink, like I said, every night. It didn't become next level until he passed away.
No, and I can relate to losing someone suddenly. I was around the same age when my fiance died.
I'm sorry.
So I understand it's like my dad passed away, but he had stage 4 cancer, so you're
Right.
kind of preparing for it the entire time. So when it happens, it's not a sudden loss. And my fiance was sick. She was bipolar schizophrenic, and she took her life. So it was a sudden, traumatic event that happened that it was really hard to process that suddenly gone. And, one day we're talking, the next day we're not. So I understand that. Did the drunk driver get charged?
Yeah, actually, he did, and he served his time, and he just was released. He did 15 years.
Good.
And that's kind of a wild story because the guy who was extremely intoxicated that killed him, he and we went to high school together. We went to Horizon because I moved out here my senior year of high school, and we weren't like super close, but he was a partier, and we would run into each other at the clubs and all of that. So that was another kind of tough pill to swallow because a lot of my friends were friends with him. So the division that it kind of caused within it just was a bad deal all around.
And that's when your drinking progressed?
Yes, that's when I drank to escape, not drink to have fun.
Yeah. You were little, I was 12 when I stopped drinking for fun and started drinking to escape.
12?
12. Yep.
Dang, that's Age of my oldest stepchild.
Yeah, so what happened was I was 11 when I started drinking, for fun. My friend would sleep over. My parents weren't drinkers, but they knew how to throw a party. So there was always leftover alcohol in the house and they would store it in the basement. So on like weekends, my friend would sleep over all the time and we would sneak down to the basement and make Captain Morgan and Coke and watch movies all night. So that was me drinking, for fun. And then when I was 12, that's when you start like getting changed for gym class. And I started getting picked on and bullied for I'm a big guy. So I started getting bullied for my size. And, I would sneak a whole bottle up to my room. I lived in the attic. So my parents never came up to my room. And when I had a bad day at school, I would take shots while I was playing my video games or doing my homework
Wow.
and, drinking alone, smoking. I had a walk-in closet with a window. So I would go in there and I would smoke my cigarettes and like have my head out the window the entire time so it didn't smell, or smoke a black and mild as I'm doing shots. And yeah, I would get drunk on weeknights during school at that young age. And I became the partier in middle school, like sixth, seventh, eighth grade. And then by the time I was 16, I was basically drinking every night. And yeah, I drank really hard until I was 22. And then I found opiates when I was 22. And that's when my drinking lessened and my opiates became my daily thing.
Is that your
So, what's that?
drug of choice?
It was, yeah. Yeah. Yep. I have about 2,400 days since I did opiates
Wow, good for you.
and a little over 1,700 days since I drank. And
Good. That's awesome.
so I relapsed last summer. My dad passed away, like I said, and that's when I started doing benzos again and I started smoking weed all day, every day. And that went on for like 8 months until I quit benzos and weed on April 1st of this year.
Was that,
So
do you have to go to detox for that?
no, I didn't do detox. I just did it on my own. Um,
Very.
yeah, it's definitely not recommended to detox off benzos by itself.
Right.
Because as you know, benzos and alcohol are the two ways that you can literally die from just suddenly stopping.
Yeah.
I took a month off of work. I used FMLA and I took a month off from work and got like short-term disability. This way we had some money coming in still. And, I got through the withdrawals went on for like, I want to say 6 to 8 days when I quit. I couldn't sleep. I was up for a couple days because I was so used to taking a couple of benzos. Like I was snorting my Valium.
Right.
So I would do my Valium, I would smoke my weed, and that's how I would pass out. And they my psychiatrist switched up my sleep meds, and then my sleep improved and I started taking melatonin and everything else. So I take about 6 different medications to help me fall asleep, and I include Benadryl.
Wow.
So, and luckily, thank God, gabapentin exists.
That stuff is good. They gave that to me. I don't take it anymore, but when I went to rehab this last go, and that's what they gave me was gabapentin.
Yeah, it's really good for like restless legs.
Hmm.
And I get terrible restless legs still to this day. It's been 6.5 years since I stopped opiates, and I still get horrible restless legs. So the gabapentin really helps with that at night, and it helps me like calm down a little bit.
Right. Yeah, like the anxiety a little bit. And it's good for pain too. It's
It
kind of
is.
all around thing.
Yeah, I like it, and it's not like addictive. You know what I mean? Like I my dosages change every day depending on how my day went.
Right.
Depends on how many I take it. I'm prescribed 3 a night, and then sometimes I only need 1 or 2. So it really just depends on like how my day goes.
Yeah.
If I have work the next day or if it's a weekend, I'm off on Wednesdays. So I work 7 to 6:30 Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday,
Yeah. So,
but 12-hour days.
wow, that's long.
Well, I get I'm lucky I get an hour and a half long lunch break and I attend NA every day at noon.
Oh, okay.
So that helps. Did you ever get a DUI while you were drinking besides like at the end?
No, that was my first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got let off a lot. I've definitely been pulled over multiple times, and but that was the first time that I got a DUI.
Now, you said you got pulled over a bunch of times for is that for reckless driving?
No, I was drunk. I mean, swerving, whatever. I just talked my way out of it.
Yeah. And so you got lucky a few times.
Lucky. I deserved one a few times, but this last time it was extreme.
Were you a bar drinker or a drinker at home?
Oh, I tried to hide it, like, because everybody knows that I shouldn't be drinking. So it would only last. I mean, my relapse, it was 9 days until I mean, I go down fast. It's not like some long, drawn out thing. It's quick.
No, you had said a relapse. So you had tried stopping in your 30s?
I had 7 years.
Okay, in your 30s.
Yeah, so my first daughter Hannah, who's 10, when I got pregnant with her, I quit drinking. Um, and that was rough. I had to go to rehab, but I did, and I did outpatient though. And then I stayed sober for 7 years. I left my daughter's dad. COVID happened. Moved back from Georgia back to Arizona. Um, and I thought I could handle it. It had been a long time. Like my life had changed. Things were different as a mom, yada, yada, yada. And as you know, obviously, no. So there was 4 brief relapses that I would taper myself off. I tried to do it by myself. I didn't like go back to rehab these last couple of times. And I would be so sick, I'd like just sip on the vodka. But I knew that if I didn't, I'd, listen to AA on my phone. I would do online, and then but somehow managed to do it. And then a couple months later, I, would pick back up. And this last time I had to go to rehab, and my potassium was so bad that if I hadn't gone to the hospital, because when you get it, I don't know about other states, but when you get a DUI out here, they release you until your court date. So I got out and I continued to drink, and I was drinking in the hospital, knowing I needed to go to rehab. I just was terrified to stop, even though I had stopped before. It's just amazing what this stuff does to our brain and the tricks that it plays on us.
Yep, I'm part of a group on Facebook. I'm in a lot of sober groups on Facebook. I mean, that's how we met.
Right.
And I'm in a sober group called Hams, which is all about tapering and harm reduction. And I hear people trying to taper all the time. I see their struggle with tapering, because I was able to stop, on the dime, and which was dangerous. Like I quit drinking February 29th of 2020.
Well,
Um, so it was leap day of 2020. My wife and I decided to quit drinking that day. And then COVID happened 2 weeks later and shut everything down. And Zoom meetings didn't exist at that time. That was later on.
right.
So we kind of had to do it on willpower and rely on each other for support. And we were using medical cannabis. We both had our medical cards.
Okay.
So, but I was smoking medicinally for years. And it wasn't until last summer when I stopped smoking medicinally and I started smoking all day, every day.
Oh,
So, and people always say, well, weed's fine. You can't go withdrawals because of weed. I'm here to say you can definitely go.
I've heard. I don't know. I've never really been a big plant person. Oh, you can say it on here, marijuana person, myself. But I've seen my other friends, and I don't know if it's like the. I'm sure it's not as intense as like alcohol or Xanax, but the irritability, can't sleep, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
don't.
no, and your eating digresses
Oh, okay.
because you're so used to like being high and having the munchies.
Oh,
So, you're not eating as much and initially. Like now, I mean, I'm fine. I eat plenty. I wouldn't be my size if it wasn't for eating. Did you say Xanax? Were you taking Xanax too?
mm.
No. And when you had your relapse after 7 years, is that when you started trying cocaine?
No, I just always used it just as a party. Like I didn't even really use it that much. I
Oh, I see. When you were like partying at the bars in your 20s.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Now I see. And your first time at rehab, did they introduce you to AA?
I found AA when I was 29. So after Bradley died, that was his name, and I started drinking the way that I was. After about a year and a half, I was like, something's wrong with me. I didn't really know anything about AA, but one of my clients told me about it. So I went for 30 days and I stayed alcohol free for 30 days. And then I was like, oh, I graduated. Thanks for teaching me how to drink, you know? No.
Yeah, no, AA is wonderful. That's the reason I didn't go to rehab after my relapse because I knew where I needed to be, and that was in the rooms again. And
I firmly believe anybody's life if they take it serious.
yeah, that I do NA every day at noon. And I used to do AA, and it's crazy. I had a dream, like 2 weeks into being sober this time, and I had a dream. I walked into a church basement, and my dad was sitting there, and he said, "Welcome back."
Aw,
And that's when I knew I was doing the right thing by quitting everything.
right.
But my problem is my relapse wasn't drinking. My relapse was Valium and weed. So I couldn't talk about them because they only want to hear how your discussion relates to alcohol. So
Sure.
after like 2 months, I really felt like I had to bite my tongue all the time. And, I felt uncomfortable because, I couldn't talk about alcohol because I was so far gone from the drink. And so that's when I found an NA Zoom meeting, and that's what I attended. It's based out of Rhode Island. I used to live in Massachusetts, so I know a lot of people up there. And, I really found my home group in NA every day at noon. I do GA on the weekends because I'm a compulsive gambler.
Well,
So I wear many hats, Richelle.
I
you know,
think us do. I mean, we'll find, I mean, it's just the way our brains are wired.
any way to fill a void.
Yeah,
I always say that my addiction is the word more.
sure.
Whether it's food, whether it's gambling, whether it's drinking, whether it's smoking, whether it's using drugs. My addiction's more of whatever's filling that void that I feel like I'm bipolar, so I deal with a lot of like depression and shit, and it's just something. That's why I have a therapist that I do weekly. I have a psychiatrist that I do once a month. I have NA this, and then plus I do this podcast.
Right,
This really helps me stay sober by talking to other alcoholics and addicts. You know,
right.
I'm missing my nude meeting today, but we're having this conversation. And, in AA, they always say a meeting is two alcoholics having a conversation.
Do that.
So, this is my meeting is talking to you. And, I usually miss on Wednesdays because I do these interviews.
Okay.
Um, I fill up my schedule when I'm off of work, and I take care of my wife. She has MS.
Mm.
So, I keep busy, and it helps me to not want to gamble. I haven't gambled since July 13th.
Good job.
So, what is it? 4 months today, since I've gambled. And I mean, this will be out in December. So, God willing, I'll be at 5 months by the
Right.
time this gets released.
Nice. Mm.
I'm releasing daily episodes from Thanksgiving Eve to New Year's Day
Okay.
to
Cool.
kind of raise awareness around relapsing during the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
How
That's
are you with holidays?
I I mean, for me, I don't think they're much of a struggle. My husband has a huge Italian family. We always have parties here. It's a part of my life. I don't and I do I'm blessed with a big family. So which I hear one coming right now. So that's not, I know that a lot of people do, and I try to reach out and do a lot more with recovery during that time, but I do not tend to struggle during that time. And I go to AA, and I'm in the community a lot. I'm in the community of AA, and I'm also just in the community, and I feel like one of the biggest reasons that we need to be out, we need to not isolate, and that's I think a big problem is isolation.
Yeah, especially when you were not really a social drinker at the end and
Right.
you were a home drinker.
For me, isolation is my biggest enemy.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you have a huge family. Is it helpful that, like, because your family kind of split up between your ways, that now you have a big family to rely on?
Yeah, it's more my spouse's family that I spend a lot of time with. My family was always really small, but I know that if I don't get out and I start just kind of hanging at home, and that is where I know the signs before. And I think that's a big thing for people is to start to learn yourself to like be able to catch yourself on like, because a relapse starts way before we pick up, right?
Yep, that's what happened to me. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped talking to my sponsor. I stopped having a connection to my higher power. And I was relying solely on myself. And I couldn't handle the grief that I was going through.
Yeah.
And I didn't drink over it, but I used over that. And it's all the things that they say happen before you relapse.
Oh yeah, I mean the relapse is way before we pick up.
Yep. And I'm glad that you're in AA, because having a program is so helpful. How are you with the steps?
I I'm not reworking them right now. I might do. Actually, it's probably a good idea. I was talking to my sponsor about that, but I did complete the steps, and I mean if I feel like for anybody that's struggling, like everything that this program has to offer, follow it. I
Yeah,
did.
that's awesome. But I'll let you go. I see that you're busy. I appreciate you coming on and talking about your problem and talking about your solution.
Absolutely, and I'm more than happy to come on here and do this again. Now that I know what we're doing.
It's okay. Well, have a great day, Richelle.
It was really nice talking to you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.